Cam Rogers, national golf contributor, host of the Tiger Woods pod on the Bleav Podcasts Network, at Mr. Rogers99 on Twitter. I think this is a fascinating story in Cam, and he's not the guy that you picked to win. He was a long shot to win this thing, obviously. But I guess the main story would be, it's a great story, but is it a good one for golf that a 50-year-old guy who hasn't been relevant for a couple of years walks into the PGA and wins this tournament? Is this good?
Hey, Mike, great to be with you, sir. Yeah, I think this is a really interesting sort of storyline to track here throughout the summer. Has this been a breakthrough for Phil Mickelson, and can he sustain this success? I think it's a great thing just from the top because we have no Tiger Woods, the ultimate content guy for the PGA Tour, who can pick up that slack. And I've talked about this before. It's a patchwork approach with the likes of Rory and Spieth. But when you factor in Phil Mickelson now, who is in theory 1B to Tiger Woods in terms of this generation, then you have some real energy around the game right now. So I think it is a good thing. The oldest major champion in PGA Tour history just tamed the beast. That was the Ocean Course, the longest course in major championship history. A 50-year-old can get it done. That opens up a whole lot of possibilities for this summer.
Yeah, there's the good side of it. And I guess it's like, hey, you got all these young, talented guys. That's golf, though. I mean, but I think the mindset is, hey, a 51-year-old guy just won your big thing. Or what about all these young guys? They can't push these older guys out yet. But I think that's the sport, right? It's everybody's. And Phil kind of mentioned that as, hey, so what was it about Phil that was different in the PGA this year from maybe the last couple of years where he has struggled a bit?
Not even a bit, Mike. I will just say it's been pretty putrid on the PGA Tour for the last couple of years. I mean, you just look at this calendar year. Going into the PGA Championship, Phil had 0 top 20 finishes on the PGA Tour. His last top 10 in a major was 2016. I was going into my senior year in college when he finished inside the top 5 at the Open Championship, going up against Henrik Stenson at Royal Troon. So there was 0 recent form, 0 real anything in terms of major championship performances within the last couple of years. And he entered the week ranked 176 in terms of strokes gained tee to green going into this PGA Championship. And he led the field tee to green this past week. So I think it sort of demonstrates just how impossible sometimes it is to handicap golf, number one. Number two, just how volatile the game can be. And then number three, how it can span so many ages. We're talking about Colin Morikawa, who entered last week as the defending champion, having won the PGA Championship in his second major championship start. And then you have Phil Mickelson, 116 major championship starts. And on that 116th start, wins the PGA Championship just last night. So it really is interesting to see the span of ages in the game of golf. You don't get that really in any other sport.
Mickelson, by the way, 200-1 odds to win this at the beginning. I know a lot of prop swappers had a nice weekend with Phil Mickelson. Just the appearance of Phil, though. He looked like a different guy, right? I mean, to you, did it look different?
Well, he had some moxie. He had some swag. Phil was sort of in a rough spot for the last couple of years in terms of tinkering around and figuring things out with his game. And clearly he had some sort of breakthrough this week. We had not seen this sort of iron play from him in quite some time. You have to wonder if that is sustainable, if it's just a flash in the pan. Sounds like Phil doesn't even know. So we'll have to track that as we go forward. Obviously, his odds are better now at the U.S. Open, and he is guaranteed 5 cracks at the U.S. Open and the career Grand Slam. Because of this victory, he's exempt for the next 5 years, perhaps even more, depending on what he does in the next couple of years. But he'll have a shot next month at Torrey Pines. He's a California guy to capture the career Grand Slam. But obviously, in theory, tee to green game is pretty sticky. If you find it, it typically lasts pretty long, unlike something like putting, which is more volatile. So he plays this week. As of now, we'll see if he drops out at Colonial, and it'll be an interesting study if he continues up with this ball striking here.
By the way, he is the second oldest player to ever win a golf major. So Phil Mickelson obviously defying a lot there. What were some of the other storylines? Cam Rogers is with us here looking back at what was a great weekend. I mean, to have Phil in it this whole, he was basically the story of the weekend, but it was fun. Cam Rogers is the national golf contributor, host of the Tiger Woods pod on the Bleav Podcast Network. So what were some of the other storylines that came and emerged from this that will jump into the U.S. Open?
Yeah, looking back at that 2012 PGA Championship leaderboard, right, we learned that there was a lot of interesting names there, names we really didn't know all too well. David Lynn, for example, and I mentioned the grinders, the older guard, if you will. We sort of had that mixed bag again here at the Ocean Course in 2021. Louis, I talked about him last week, the ultimate grinder. He played well T2. Brooks Koepka showed up again, and he is defying his injury right now. Obviously, he is not 100%, but still finishing tied for Louis there at the PGA Championship. Ultra impressive. Padraig Harrington, who saw this coming, finishing T4. Shane Lowry, T4. Harry Higgs tied for fourth as well, and a couple of elite ball strikers, Morikawa, Will Zalatoris. Those guys are inside the top 10. So again, another mixed bag here at the Ocean Course. In terms of U.S. Open storylines, Mike, how about some good news here for your guy, Ricky Fowler?
Oh, yeah.
T8 here. He's a grinder, too, and he's starting to find his ball striking a little bit. Had a really nice weekend, 69, 71. Can he carry that into the U.S. Open? Obviously, his number is going to get a little bit shorter now after that good performance at the PGA, but he is now a name to watch at Torrey Pines.
Yeah, Fowler, he got the exemption. He had to basically ask to get in there. He does. When we spoke on Thursday, he had a good morning, and he kept that up all the way through the weekend, finished 1 under and in 8th place. How about we talked a lot Thursday, Cam, about Rory, and what did you take away from his weekend?
Yeah, I wasn't really high on Rory going into this week. I thought the narratives perhaps could be too much pressure for him. Winner back in 2012 at the Ocean Course, recent winner at Wells Fargo, the betting favorite, finishes T49. That's not all too surprising for me. Look, again, it's a lesson to be learned in the game of golf. The top 10 favorites cannot finish inside the top 10 every single week. It's just not going to happen. Golf is such a interesting sport in that the margins are so small. All of these guys hit it straight, but then it becomes a relative game. Who can make the putts? Who can save on the par fours if they miss a green, et cetera, et cetera. So for Rory McIlroy, I think he will be fine. Again, he just won at the Wells Fargo Championship, which was a big boy course in its own right out there at Quail Hollow. And Torrey Pines is a big beast too. So I think he will be better suited at that course rather than per se the Ocean Course this go around because of the pressure and the narrative, but his game is totally fine in my opinion.
By the way, Jon Rahm is the betting favorite for your U.S. Open. Why do you think he jumps out so early?
Yeah, T8 at the PGA Championship. Look, this guy dominates major championship courses. He dominates courses over 7,400 yards. This U.S. Open course is going to be a beast. Rahm has the mentality to compete at majors consistently and eventually win one. I like him as a betting favorite for that tournament as opposed to Rory McIlroy being the betting favorite for the PGA Championship. Rahm has the power, he's got the touch, and he can get hot with his putter. So we'll see what happens with him. And, it's interesting. The rough is going to be long, as we know, at the U.S. Open. Who can hack it out of that rough better than Jon Rahm? Probably only one person, and that's Bryson DeChambeau. So you need that strength to hack it out of that vegetation. Rahm and Bryson are two guys to watch there.
By the way, Torrey Pines, the last time was 2008, and that was, of course, the epic Tiger Woods, Rocco Mediate playoff hole there, correct? Am I right about that?
Yeah, it was a Monday finish, 18 holes actually for a playoff. That is not the rule anymore at the U.S. Open. So if we do have a playoff, it will not be 18 holes. I believe it's like 3 holes, aggregate score, something along those lines. But yeah, we won't have that sort of playoff like we saw with Rocco and Tiger back in 2008.
All right. So just a great weekend. It was such a busy weekend. But with Phil, I'm interested. Have the ratings come out for this yet? Because with Phil there, we're always kind of wondering, is it without Tiger? But having Phil at the top of the board almost all weekend long, have the ratings come out yet?
I haven't seen the news yet. Typically, we get them within the next couple of hours on these Mondays here. So stay tuned on that. It will be an interesting study to compare CBS's ratings of yesterday to the Masters this past April on that Sunday, too, which, obviously didn't have the numbers of Tiger Woods back in 2019, but they were better than the November Masters, which was not surprising because football and what have you was going on then.
Right.
So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting case study because, again, Phil is 1B to Tiger Woods in terms of having fans. And, I think it's a gap, honestly, a pretty sizable one between Tiger and Phil. But still, Phil's number 2 on that list. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, where it all shakes out.
By the way, a great call by Jim Nantz on the final Mickelson there yesterday as well, huh?
Yeah, of course, Jim Nantz is known for is it his time? Yes. And Phil, of course, winning at the Masters, his first major championship. And just recently, yesterday, Jim Nantz with another call there for Phil Mickelson. Let me note here, by the way, 115th in the world winning yesterday was Phil Mickelson. That is the lowest ranked player to win a major since Shawn Michael did it back in 2003 at the PGA. He was 169th. So the ultimate long shot, despite being a brand name in the game, won it yesterday.
And that's why, Vegas took a little bit of a hit because he's 200 to 1, and people are saying, hey, Phil Mickelson, sure, I'll throw a couple bucks on Phil. And he ends up winning the thing. And by the way, he's the oldest to win a major. Phil Mickelson, 51 he'll be. And what great drama yesterday at the PGA. The U.S. Open just a couple of weeks away. We'll have Cam back for that. And he, like all guests today, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Cam, good to see you, man.
Thank you, Mike. Take care, my friend.
Cam Rogers at Mr. Rogers 99. He's the national golf contributor, host of the Tiger Woods pod on the Bleav Podcast Network, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.